Excellent. Well, welcome everybody to our inaugural town hall meeting for Texas Ed 911. My name is Christine Strobush, and I'm very honored to be here with you to provide this update. 2023 has been quite a year, and you're gonna see some faces, some updates from some of our leaders. Today, we will have Aileen, Diana, and Monica providing an update. And like any good team, we rotate and we flex based on availability of people and the priorities at hand. So we're gonna jump in. Again, a lot of content here, and we hope that you find this valuable. So to start, what you see here for today's agenda, we're gonna give you a summary of 2023, kind of a year in review, and it's impressive. I think the things that we have been able to accomplish from this volunteer team in the grassroots community is really amazing. We've got a late breaking update on HB 900, which is also very exciting. So stay tuned on that. We'll have an update on parental rights and mental health. And then as we look forward into 2024, we'll be providing you some clarity of the top priorities. And last but certainly not least, we get this question a lot, Texas Ed 911, we're doing a lot. How can we help? And so we're going to give you some concrete actions that you can do to help this movement. And then after we finish that presentation, we will be opening up for Q&A. So as I think we mentioned just before, this meeting is being recorded. So this will be shared beyond the folks that were able to make it tonight. And for those of you that are with us live, we want to thank you. We know this is a very busy time of year, and your schedule is probably being pulled in lots of different directions. And the fact that you've chosen to give this hour, we are grateful. So thank you very, very much. And without further ado, I am going to pass the baton over to Aileen.
Well, thank you very much, Christine. I'm honored to be here and to be able to present to you what we have been able to accomplish this year. I will say that were it not for our leader, Melissa Beckett, we wouldn't have launched the way we did, and we're so grateful for her giving us a strong launch. She is a prayer warrior and encouraged all of us to begin all of our work and to carry out our work in prayer. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to take a minute to pray over this meeting and over the content we're sharing tonight, and just what God's going to bring as a result of sharing this with us. Father God, we just ask you to come before us and go behind us and surround us in all that we do. Your children, our children, they're yours. They're so precious to you, Lord, and we know that they're very close to you. And so we just pray for their protection, for the sovereignty of the role of the parent, and the sovereignty of the parents to make decisions in all matters pertaining to their children, Lord. And we just pray that you would enlighten our path, that we might shine a light in places of darkness, and that we would continue to succeed in this mission to protect kids, improve our schools, and also to protect parents and their fight to protect their own children. And we ask this in the name of Jesus. Amen. Okay, so essentially, I'm going to go ahead and move forward to our year in review. I'm going to start on the next slide with kind of a clockwise review of what we started with. So you're going to see the number 13 there. Texas Education 911 preceded this work by basically fighting really hard at state convention, the Republican state convention, to influence the party planks and ensure that the legislative priorities that came out of the party convention reflected serious problems that were happening in education and that parents really needed help. And we were very effective in doing that. And so Texas Education came out of that with 13 legislative priorities. That was a lot, and we learned from that, but we made a lot of progress. We actually went to the Capitol often. We made relationships, we made impact. We verified, we testified on 27 House bills and 46 Senate bills. And that was parents across the state who organized under the umbrella of Texas Education 911. It was an amazing effort. Some of our team members could tell you that some of us were at home taking care of our families while others were able to be in the Capitol, and we were able to prepare talking points for them to deliver on the floor in a committee. And so it was just an incredible working environment, and we were very effective that way, being selfless and determined. We even testified on a Senate joint resolution. 11 of the bills that we strongly advocated for passed. The one Collin County Town Hall there, that was a legislative town hall. We had one legislator whose district director said, you know, the things you're talking about, the evidence that you're finding, the stories that you're telling, these matter. I want you to talk with our boss. And so we organized a legislator town hall in Collin County, and we brought 12 parents to share their stories with a legislator. We want to do more of those. We also put together a Champion a Child campaign. We organized the stories of 32 different families whose children have been harmed in Texas public schools. You can read about them on our website at Texas Education 911.com. And so please go there and look at the Champion a Child stories to see the myriad ways that children are being harmed in Texas public schools. We get new stories all the time. And so we want to continue the journey of elevating the voice of the parent, elevating the situation, the realities that families are facing so that we can help solve these problems. We decided that when a legislator listened to us and filed a bill that helped solve some of our problems, that we would honor them with awards. And so we put out 6 hero awards. These were bills that we thought if they passed just the way they are, they would make a significant difference in solving parents' problems, and 28 courage bills, which were bills that we thought were great. They were aiming in the right direction, but we would love to sit down and talk with the author about maybe some amendments that we thought could make it a hero. And our, legislators love getting those awards. It was really fun to see our different Texas Ed 911 folks go and deliver those to their offices and take photos. And now when we go to the Capitol and we visit, we can see our awards sitting on their shelves. It's pretty fun. And then we did have one legislative briefing, which was held in the historic Supreme Court room, the historic Supreme Court room in the Capitol. That was amazing. It was wall to wall, standing room only. It was a fantastic day. A lot of staffers, of legislator staffers were in that meeting. We also hosted a Capitol Day where we had parents from all over the state come down, and allies come down and visit offices, drop off gifts, our legislative priorities, write handwritten notes. It was a great way to engage parents in the legislative process. It was very, very effective. We visited almost 20 cities on a statewide Texas Education tour, a speaking tour, and we were able to evangelize sort of the details about the problems and our solutions. And finally, we wrapped up at the end of the 3rd special session and even into the 4th special session with our 3rd meeting with Governor Abbott's policy folks on education. So we know that we are making an impact. We know that legislators are hearing us. School districts know that we're out here, and we just continue to desire to make a footprint, make our footprint even larger, engage more parents in the process to help them learn how to advocate for themselves and bring forward just common sense solutions that will solve a lot of problems. It was a very busy year. I just can't even tell you how grateful we are to have the network of parents. You're only hearing from a few of us tonight, but there are dozens and dozens and dozens. And we also have dozens of allies and their organizations that come alongside us and make this possible. And we couldn't do it without them. And we're so grateful for them. And we look forward to making even greater impact into 2024 and the next legislative session. Oh, thank you. Should have cued myself for this one. I just want to wrap up this year in review by pointing out and celebrating together and sharing with you the great honor we had to be present at the Texas Scorecard Conservative Leader Awards, where our Texas Education 911 founder was just honored with a Conservative Leader Award and a sword. And we want to share with you the nominating video by our friend and ally, Debbie Simmons. And it was just an honor to be there. I'm sorry she can't be with us tonight, but we just wanted to share this with you. It's really special.
Melissa, you know I wish I was there, and we were just so excited from Texas Ed 911. We want to just tell everyone just how awesome you are, and how you took ideas and concerns and frustrations by parents and you put that into motion. You put it into 13 legislative priorities. You created Texas Ed 911 buttons and push cards for us to take the Republican Party of Texas convention. You testified on almost all of the committees, subcommittees, and the committee of the whole for the legislative priorities and for the platform, and influenced at least 26 planks. It's amazing to see the fruit of your work, and we just thank you and love you so much, and love that you have followed what God has given you as gifts, and you have shared those with the state of Texas to protect children and to equip and empower parents. You have shown light on darkness in some of these schools. From the Texas Ed 911 tour to the legislative days down at the Capitol, we are so privileged to stand beside you and to work forward Texas Ed 911. From your team, we love you, and we thank you for the vision that you have taken from just an idea, just a set of ideas, to actual tangible results, to have influenced 26 bills that actually became law, to participate in a legislative session the way that you did. It's just phenomenal. And to your family, we thank you. We thank you for sharing your mom with us, for the sacrifices that you all have made. We recognize that, and today we honor and celebrate Melissa. Thank you.
We love you, Melissa!
Yeah.
Melissa, you know I wish I was there.
So that was just awesome. I
Right.
just wanted to share that with you because it was just super meaningful to be recognized. Melissa was recognized, but Melissa said it was recognition for Texas Ed 911. So anyway, we were just really blessed to be honored to be there with her and to celebrate all the wins of Texas Ed 911 and our founder.
Thank you. Okay, and now we've got Diana Richards with a late-breaking HB 900 update.
I am so blessed and honored to get to join you all today and let you know that TSLAC, which stands for the Texas State Library Archives Commission, did create the standards that were required in House Bill 900, the Reader Act. Yesterday, actually last night, about 7 o'clock, those standards, those mandatory minimum standards, were approved by the State Board of Education last night about 7 o'clock. And today, TSLAC met and adopted them. So they had to, go through all these little steps, but they are now officially adopted. House Bill 900 has actually been in force, in effect, since September 1st of this year. There was the injunction that was put together by some small book vendors that said that they sold to schools, and they joined hands with associations like PEN America and ALA and wanted to really put a stop to this. Thankfully, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals then stayed that injunction. So we continue to move on, and the SBOE did their job, TSLAC did their job, And now that will be in just the next day or so, possibly Monday, up on the Texas Registry on the Secretary of State's website. So I wanted to let you know, I'm sure y'all have heard of HB 900 at some point because of all the media attention that it's gotten. It is model legislation for the rest of the country. This is the first time anything like this has been done. And the Reader Act, it specifically, as it shows there, recognize that parents are the primary decision makers regarding their students' access to library materials. And that goes right in with the parental rights things that Texas Ed 911 made a priority during our convention last year. It does prohibit the possession, acquisition, and purchase of harmful material, library material rated sexually explicit, or library material that is pervasively vulgar. It requires districts to implement parental oversight for educational resources rated sexually relevant. So parents will have to opt in or give written consent for their child to read a book that's labeled sexually relevant. It recognizes that obscenity or obscene content is not protected by the First Amendment. That is huge. It is right there on the Department of Justice website. And I hand that page from that website to every legislator that I meet. And they go, wow, we didn't realize this was such a big problem. And I tell them, well, I've been hearing from parents and grandparents all over the state of Texas since 2020. If there was one silver lining to the pandemic, it was that parents got to see what was really going on in their kids' schools. And as they began to wake up, they wanted to know, what can I do about this? We all started reaching out and talking to one another. And we decided that we had to start challenging books, or we had to start speaking with our superintendents, things of that sort. I loved how we all kept in contact, and I really feel like this was orchestrated by God, that we all met one another and learned our stories. What we really need are for people to come forward, for parents and grandparents, if they know that this has happened in their child's school, to get in touch with Texas Ed 911, because we can help guide those parents on how to get efficient and positive effects from their reconsideration requests, or just their sit down meetings with their superintendent. I've been able to talk with superintendents, especially in rural, more conservative areas, and let them know that they have always had the right to remove sexually explicit content. In this PICO case that everybody likes to quote the first half of, it says that you can't remove books because of an idea that's in them, but they never finish the sentence, which says that school districts do have the right, and I say the responsibility, to remove books that are pervasively vulgar or educationally unsuitable. They've always had that right. And so we just need to continue to link arms with them. One of the things that I questioned, and you can go to the next slide, one of the things that I wanted to know is, how come we're seeing some of the same books all over the media in other states even? How did these particular books get into so many schools? Honestly, out of the hundreds and hundreds of schools that I've audited, looked through to find particular books, there's been maybe two schools in Texas, and they were very, very small rural schools that didn't have a single questionable book. And that means they probably have a very, very knowledgeable and experienced librarian there. I wanted to know, so I started looking at recommended reading lists. One of the first school districts that I sat down with looked at me and said, are you telling me that we can't trust the American Library Association or the Texas Library Association's reading lists or the awards? And I said, well, unfortunately, not anymore. We should be able to trust those lists and those awards. We should. But I've told them that we really can't let somebody else do our job for us. We can't expect them to get that right. This book, What Girls Are Made Of, is one that I showed that first ISD, and I've found it all over the place. And this is a book that doesn't speak to the other side's narrative. It has nothing to do with race or sexual identity, anything like that. It is simply minors, a girl and a boy, high school students. And page 19 starts the very detailed sex scenes through the whole book. And it's some of the most disgusting depictions that I've ever read. A little small background on me: I grew up with a dad that was addicted to porn. So these porn magazines were all over the place. The stuff in this book is worse than the articles or the short stories that were in Playboy and Penthouse. And that's ridiculous. You can go to the next slide. So that book I found on the 2018 top 10 best fiction list. That's through the ALA, their YALSA, which is the Young Adults Library Services Administration, and it is part of ALA. They also recommended the worst book that I think I've seen, and that's Let's Talk About It. They put that on their 2022 great graphic novels for teens in the top 10. So school districts are a little stressed out and a little understaffed, and they would absolutely just go to these lists and purchase these books, because when they look at the lists and they look at the reviews on Amazon, reviews on Kirkus, places like that, they say that these books are phenomenal. But as you can see, they have obscene sexual nudity. They talk about kink, they talk about pornography and masturbation, and going online to find communities to talk to about sex. So 2018, I actually went back over a decade and found these books that have been popping up in everybody's newsreels, right? You can go to the next slide. We like to see that we can kind of piece this together, right? We're going to piece together the puzzle. If you see things like Freedom to Read, PEN America's top 13 challenged books, those books that are on that list, Genderqueer, All Boys Aren't Blue, Bluest Eye, Flamer, those books were on the recommended reading list. So 2021, great graphic novels for teens. They put Flamer. That book, Flamer, wound up in middle schools in Texas. Middle schools, that's 11 years old and up. And I love this illustration at the right there that shows the kid trying to reach the books that actually would teach him, would help with his foundational knowledge. And he can't get past the filthy books is what we did. We did a filthy book campaign and just wanted to expose this as much as possible. You can go to the next slide. These are some resources, and we're going to send this out to those that registered. But these QR codes are just a fast way to be able to find more information. It'll take you to the Justice Department website where you can see what they speak on for obscenity and several other aspects. We're also going to be putting some links in the chat, and that will be to help you if you want to try to audit your own school district. But most of all, please reach out to us if you have any stories or need our assistance. Thanks so much. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Diana. What an update. Really valuable information. Okay, we are going to move over to Monica for our parental rights and mental health update. Over to you, Monica.
Great, thank you. It's great to be here this evening. I'm going to start right in. Parental rights are under attack. Kids are being subjected to agenda-driven course material, And there's a push for mental health subjects and social and emotional learning without parental consent. A part of all that is asking kids about their emotions, their attitudes, their values, their behaviors. We found out from parents the many ways that the schools are doing this. Schools you can go to the next slide maybe. Schools are asking questions like, how are you feeling? What's on your mind? Is there anything you want to talk about privately? And these are from surveys like Panorama or mental health apps like Rhythm. And consent for this has been flimsy at best. I mean, opt-out consent. Give me a break. But it's been hard for parents who complain because though Texas Education Code says parental consent is required for psychological examination, testing, treatment, schools will just say, oh, well, that's not a psychological exam. That's just a survey. That's just a check-in. It's part of the academic lesson. So parents have been having to play whack-a-mole with all of this probing and screening. And I think you can go to the next slide. As part of these apps, we also found that schools are keeping behavioral dashboards or scorecards on kids. So you see an example there. So these are third-party apps, Panorama, Rhythm, and they're keeping behavioral dashboards on kids. They're collecting the sensitive psychological data on your kids. Well, I wonder what they're going to do with all that information. That's our question. So to address all of this, in the regular legislative session earlier this year, 2 bills were filed that gave a broad definition to psychological examination and testing and treatment. And these bills, with these bills, the schools would have to get written consent from a parent before they ask a student about a habit, an attitude, a belief, a feeling, a mental disorder, no matter how they ask it. You know, if they want to call it a survey or a check-in or whatever. And these bills did really well. In fact, parents came down in force to testify in favor of these bills. The Senate bill passed the Senate 28-3. That was great. And the House bill had a lot of support, lots of joint authors, co-authors, and that Representative Valerie Swanson even brought it up in the 4th special session, and it passed the House floor, actually. So if anybody has a way to want to contact Representative Valerie Swanson's office in the Houston area and thank her, that would be totally appropriate, totally encouraged. So essentially, what we have is legislation that has passed both houses and is increasingly popular. Now we just need to ramp it up. And I think the next slide now. Along with that, we are now very concerned about school-based mental health centers. Just last month, a father in Maine said that the school-based health clinic sent his 17-year-old daughter home with a baggie of antidepressant drugs and then reported him to Child Protective Services when he complained about it. Now, he said that there was a consent, a blanket consent at the beginning of the year, and these blanket consents can be a problem. Parents are not going to know what's going on for the rest of the year. And yeah, we're very concerned about this. The Biden administration is going to be getting this program for school-based clinics throughout the country. Schools will be given Medicaid provider numbers so that they can bill for services. And the Centers for Medicaid Medicare has already issued guidance clarifying that parental consent for the first appointment is not required, and that the patient is not even required to be present for a specialty consult. So, schools are going to be collecting a bunch of behavioral data on your children. Then they can pull it into a special provider consult for services. What could go wrong? So to sum it up, I want to bring up an important point here. Parental rights are a three-legged stool. First leg is education. That's knowing your rights, knowledge about your rights. The second leg is transparency, being able to know if your rights are being upheld and documenting when they're not, documenting your findings. And the third leg is accountability, the ability to enforce your rights. So if any one of those legs isn't there, your stool is going to fall. And I think on the next slide, or one of the next slide, there'll be some resources. Yes. So we want to hear from you. If you or anyone you know has experience with any of these issues, or if you know of someone, a kid that has been hauled into a psychiatric facility against their parental's consent, let us know. You've got a link to our website and you've got our phone number. I've got a couple of links for articles there for you, and links to the testimony from all the parents that came down. So many of them came down and testified in the regular session for those bills. It's great to watch those. And that's all I have. Let me know if you need any other information.
Thank you so much, Monica. Really, really great update. Really appreciate it. Okay. All right. We're going to circle back to Aileen now and look ahead to 2024.
Yes, first, I just want to take 1 minute to thank both Diana and, oh my gosh, I almost called you Melissa, Monica, and Monica. You know, we can look back in hindsight and report on what we did, but the amount of work, the amount of research that goes into what's been presented here tonight, the connecting with parents and accompanying them, that is a tremendous amount of the work that we do is accompanying parents who find themselves in a situation with the school district where they just feel completely powerless and they don't know what to do and they're at their wits' end and they know that something just is supposed to happen and it's not. And so I just want to say thank you so much. Both of the ladies who just presented to you have followed a particular area or worked with one of our allies and worked alongside us and helped us to accompany parents along these journeys, to represent them in grievances, to show up and prepare them to make public testimony, to encourage our allies. I mean, our allies, I think, were responsible for 20 or 30, 40,000. I can't remember the exact number. Diana, you can tell me, but specific letters and emails into the legislature on HB 900. It was a big deal. I don't think they've ever been contacted more than by that and the Stop Gender Transition, medical gender transition for children. This was a huge session and parents showed up like they never did before. And so I just want to say thank you for that. And then looking forward, we used to focus our legislative priorities on the problems that parents had, and there are so many problems, and that's why we had 13 priorities. However, what we're going to do moving forward is focus instead on solutions, because these solutions, as we've been walking with parents through their journeys, and I see we have some of those parents online with us tonight, big issues. There are a few solutions that we believe would solve just about all of them if we could get them passed. And so let me just say that we're talking about big research projects going forward into things like educator misconduct, or maybe even, in this case, maybe they're, instead of educators, you may have seen some of these headlines in the news just in the last week. Sometimes these people are contractors to school districts. A contracted school psychologist was just arrested this week. Educator misconduct seems to be at an all-time high. We are particularly concerned about educators grooming or having inappropriate sexual relationships with students. These school-based health clinics are going to pose a massive threat to parental rights and the sovereignty of a family to make decisions about the health care of their children. We know that legislators, after they went after the issue of stopping medical mutilation of children in the name of gender transition, they're becoming increasingly aware that school-based health centers and even the mental health piece of what's going on in our schools. Our schools are flooded with mental health stuff today. That is contributing to the problem. There is still a school to clinic pipeline that exists out there, and we need to do our part to help parents navigate it and bring the legislative solutions to shut that down. And also student data privacy, big deal. But what solutions do we have that we want to go after to help resolve those? The first is a really big idea, and we started working on it last session, and it was even entertained in the special sessions, and some bills were filed. But we want a stronger, more comprehensive bill that would bring forward an inspector general for education. The state of Texas employs an inspector general in other areas, like with HHS or with incarcerated population. We believe that our children are a very vulnerable population, and that we entrust public servants, teachers, who are being paid on our tax dollars, to be trustworthy, to be around those children. And when they demonstrate that they cannot be, and it is not every teacher, but it's happening so often these days, that we need an inspector general. We want an inspector general to look into the abuses of parental rights and the abuses of children, sexually and physically especially. But there are many other good laws and good statute in Ed Code. We need them enforced. And so an inspector general would give us that enforceability. It would create an entire division that would not be situated under the TEA. It would instead be situated perhaps under the State Board of Education, but not in the same place that other inspector generals are situated, mainly because they have to sit administratively adjacent to the agency that they work with, which would be the TEA. But in this case, we find that the problem might reside within the TEA. Educator misconduct, which is supposed to be reported there, is kind of gone awry. And so we are doing a deep dive on that, and please stay tuned. We will be releasing more information. We are working with allies to bring forward a damning report, frankly, on educator misconduct. And we've been accompanying families who are struggling with the heartache of seeing their children destroyed and their families destroyed by the misconduct of educators. In addition to that, we want a common sense repeal of sovereign immunity. Right now, Texas schools enjoy sovereign immunity, and we are saying, listen, if your child is sexually groomed, physically assaulted, or sexually involved with a sexual relationship with a teacher, which is statutory rape, all bets are off. School districts are going to have to tighten up their policies on how they hire, who they hire, and not passing the trash. And there's only one way to keep them accountable, and that is to repeal sovereign immunity in a very, very narrow instance of this type of abuse. And then the last thing is prohibiting taxpayer-funded lobbying. A bill on this very point has probably been filed in every legislative session for the last 12 years or something. But listen, parents have revealed we are getting killed by TASB and their lawfare that they use against parents. They are literally counseling school districts to trespass parents, criminal trespass them, if they do things like maybe even take a recording in a meeting, or they say something that the school district doesn't like. That has got to stop. And the only way we stop that is by cutting off the money and prohibiting groups like TASB are prohibiting our school districts from using taxpayer money to pay for their admission or their participation or their, subscription, what have you, to TASB, and for all of their board members to go and to their conferences and to be trained in ways that you technically use lawfare against parents. And so these are the three solutions that we're going to be fighting for going forward. We would love you to join us on that journey. We can't do this without the help of our advocates and allies. And so we'd love to hear your feedback and your ideas and your engagement on these things. And frankly, I know we don't send a lot of emails, but when we do, we try and send the emails only on the ones that, only on matters where we know that you can take an action. And so please stay tuned and pay attention to those. Follow us along this journey and join us as we work to make significant impact and really level the playing field for parents, right? We talked about parents being the primary educators in all matters concerning their children. Taxpayers deserve the protection of knowing that their money is being used in ways that are not fraudulent, wasteful, or abusive. And parents deserve to know that when they send their children into a Texas taxpayer-funded public school, that they're in the care of adults who are trustworthy. And right now, so many Texas public school parents know that that is not the case. And so we thank you for joining us tonight and for aligning with us on these issues, for going with us to the Capitol, for visiting legislators, for pushing, sending the emails, making the phone calls. We can't do this without the parent network that you are and the allies and the other parents that you bring in. One of the things that we can do, next slide, one of the things that we can ask you to do going forward there are three things. One, if you are already an ally, we thank you for being an ally. It doesn't cost anything, but we do appreciate your engagement. Help us grow our movement by leveraging your voice and by sharing the allyship with others. Ask others to join us, people that you know who are like-minded. Share your story with us. On the next slide, when we get there, we're going to deliver a QR code that you can give to parents when someone comes to you and says, oh my gosh, this just happened. And we get those phone calls all the time. And we also get leads through this form, which we will share with you. Have them fill out a report form. We will help them. We will find one of our parent members or a parent advocate somewhere else in the state, hopefully close to them, to help walk them through what they can expect, how to file a grievance, and just accompanying them. That is so important. It's the biggest part of what we do. It helps us also build case studies, and that is proof to legislators of what's really happening. Your real stories are the reason why our bills pass, or why they get so many great votes, even when they don't pass, but we're getting closer. More stories help us, well, they say facts tell and stories sell. And so help us help advocate for their parents and sell the need for these solutions with those stories. And finally, of course, we are not even a 501c3. We are just a network of parents. We do all of this on our own dime. If any of you have the capacity to make a small donation or a large donation, it would help us reimburse our members for things like gas or copying expenses, or to keep the URL subscription going for another year, or even our WebEx. We pay for a professional WebEx so that we can have these types of meetings. And so any money that we do get doesn't come to us specifically, but helps us cover our costs. And then on the next slide, the QR code that you can use and share, please, with other parents. Help them to find help they need. Often parents just don't even know there is a grievance process. They don't know the education code. And sadly, we have all become nerds on the education code and lots of other statute too. And so please share this, take a picture of it. You can use that QR code to report a problem with your ISD. Again, I just want to say quickly, thank you so much. Yes, nerdy by nature. I love that. You put that in the chat, Diana. I want to thank you so much for joining us. And I also want to thank the parents. There are some parents that we have accompanied along their journey through their grievance process tonight. Infrequently, we get positive results. But more frequently, we walk alongside these parents, we cry with them, we hold their hands, we visit their school board meetings, and we speak up for them. And that's the biggest part of what we do, is elevating the voice of the Texas public school parent who is in desperate need of solutions. It is true, Texas education does have a 911, and we are first responders. So, and so are all of you, because you're a part of our network. So please join us, become an ally, share the QR code with others. And if you have the ability to donate, we would greatly appreciate your generosity.
Awesome. Hey, Aileen, we've had some comments come through on the chat. Don't know if you've seen, but support for, you know, the sovereign immunity, and then questions about the form, which is back to Monica with the blanket consent forms there. So just wanted y'all to see all those chats.
Yes, okay, well, let's go take a few of those. Yes, we do believe that. Now, I will just say this, our challenge with repealing sovereign immunity is that there is a very, very, very well-moneyed organization called Texans for Legislative Reform, TLR, and they give a lot of money to folks who don't want us coming anywhere near this. However, I just want to share with you that what we're trying to do is protect children in the narrowest of circumstances and the most severe circumstances where a child is physically or sexually harmed. And I believe that that narrow repeal is something no one can defend. I don't know who can stand on the other side of that and say, child abuse? Oh no, we're immune from all of that. They do it now. But I believe that the appetite is growing to see justice in this area. And so we need you to tell your stories and direct other parents. It's heartbreaking. We know that when this happens in a family, parents don't want to re-injure their children, relive this nightmare. But sometimes a parent's warrior heart comes out and says, I will do anything it takes. And so pray for those parents, encourage those parents, and bring them to us so that we can walk alongside them and help them bring a blessing out of something terrible that's happened. And so, you know, their personal testimony is probably going to be the thing that gets that kind of a law passed. What else do we have?
The blanket consent forms, I can answer to that.
Yes.
Yes, we are going to need to do something about that, because blanket consent forms at the beginning of a year for school-based health centers, that's how these problems like what happened in Maine happen. Now, for us to be able to address this in legislative session, once again, that goes back to the three-legged stool. We're going to need outreach. We're going to need to have parents that have had this happen contact us, document what happened, so that something can be done about it. You know, when you go to the Capitol, there's a couple of things that can happen. You can talk to the legislators about what you're seeing, but that's philosophical. When you have people that this has happened to and they have documentation, then it stops being philosophical. It's real. They can see it, and that's how we can address it.
Mm-hmm. No, that's really important. And I think, you know, we're going to find the same thing. It's going to be a very similar issue that we're going to see with student data privacy, which is another massive problem. And that's another explosive report we will be coming out with. We're just doing a lot of research right now, and it's too premature to share some of the details that we do have. But we're going to have the same issue there. There are blanket consents that the parents are signing at the beginning of the school year that they are being abused. And that's what you're seeing with the school-based health clinic, and you're seeing that with student data privacy and a number of things. And so, yes, stay tuned. We will be working on a lot of big issues and sharing that with legislators and our ally network and our allied organization network. I want to thank the Alexanders are on, and so are the Joneses, some families that we have help this year. And you know something, Alexanders, I think you're right. The point you put in the chat was that we should broaden where we think we can get sovereign immunity repeal. And I don't think it hurts us one bit to ask. And if something gets amended out of a bill, it does. But that we have to start. You know, we have to start somewhere. In fact, some might say that starting in a narrow way and being able to add on once you get it done is another way to go about getting the same thing. It takes a lot of time and patience and perseverance, but we will start. And I do believe that grooming, whether that's psychological or sexual, is another very, very serious issue because of human trafficking, and then just how explosive that problem is. That we should be able to get that done. And so we will look forward to working with you and testifying alongside you at the Capitol to bring those bills forward.
I have
Any
a
other questions?
I have a quick comment on Jen Kratke's question. Actually, it was a comment about the Republican legislators paying more attention to the ISDs that are in their district. And the best way to get them to notice that is to make phone calls. Phone calls and emails to your legislators first get seen by their staff and they filter through things, but it's really important for them to hear what's going on. When I began talking with legislators, they would say, "Oh, I don't think this is a problem in our district because I've not had any phone calls." And I'm thinking, not everybody in a district even knows who their representative or their senator are. So we're always trying to educate about that legislative process and on elections, primaries, all of those things just to get people more engaged. One of the links that I provided at the beginning goes to TexansWakeUp.com, and that's run by Jamie Haynes. She's also one of the advisors allies with Texas Education 911. And that specific one goes to trainings. And those trainings, some of them are maybe 20 minutes, some of them are a little over an hour, but they're incredible. If you need to know how to use the Texas Legislative online website, there is a really good little training tool there. It says how to use TLO. There's other ones to teach you how to audit the school books. There's another one that teaches you how to do a public information request. That's something that I had to learn. I'm just a mom. I tell everybody the very first time I went down to the Capitol to go and testify in front of the public, I think it was actually criminal jurisprudence, and I said my own name wrong. And everybody started laughing, but it was a stress reliever. They realized I was not a paid lobbyist, obviously. I was just a real mom that went down there and told my story. So please do reach out to us. There's always going to be somebody that can see, can identify with what you're going through. And we just want to thank you for coming and being on this tonight.
Yes, and for anyone else who maybe doesn't have an ISD issue but would otherwise like to connect with us, to maybe there's a particular area within education that you're saying, like, look, I've already done a lot of this research and I have some information and I'm concerned about an issue and you want to bring that forward, send us an email at texased911@gmail.com. texased911@gmail.com. And we will get that, and just let us know how you'd like to engage. And we are more than happy to help find a place in a subject area that you're interested in. We want to go after big systemic issues because frankly, the schools are a mess, and it doesn't really matter what happens with school choice. I will just say this one last thing. Texas Education 911 doesn't take a position on school choice because really, if you look across the spectrum of states who have adopted school choice, the majority of students stay in Texas, I'm sorry, not in Texas schools, in publicly funded schools. They stay in their neighborhood schools, and that's just the nature of things. And so since that's true, we believe that we deserve accountability, transparency, and enforcement of laws on our books for all of those families, for the majority that will stay in Texas public funded schools. So we're paying for it. It's our tax dollars. And you should know that the Texas state budget right now, the way it's situated after the 88th session and all of the specials, we're spending over 50% of the state's spending on education now. It's well past time for an inspector general. The schools cannot, run wild without independent oversight and enforcement anymore. It's just bad stewardship of taxpayer dollars. And it's bad stewardship of just public trust at this point.
Yeah, Aileen,
So-
we had a question come in from Monica about the Inspector General bill, asking about the time frame of it passing and what the likelihood of that is. You want to speak to that a little bit?
Thank you for catching that. Yes, I would say that, so we have had 3 meetings with the governor's office, and as of right now, we have been told that it is on a list of items that could come up in a special session. Although we are hearing that the legislature is very tired of special sessions, and the taxpayers are growing weary of spending the millions of dollars it takes to hold them for very, very little result. So we're not terribly hopeful that there will be a 5th session where we would get this. So we are going to work hard to till the soil, tell the stories, and keep pushing on the bills. We have an amended bill that we're working with a legislator on. We're meeting with additional partners in the legislature in both houses, and we want to be ready for the next session. It kills me to think that we have to wait that long, because in my world and in my mama's heart, one more day, one more victim is just not acceptable. And we keep using that phrase with legislators. I think we're going to have to start a Rotten Apples campaign of our own. Instead of the dirty books, but a Rotten Apples campaign, because kids are being victimized all the time, and they're giving other good teachers a bad name. And that's got to stop. And so I wish I could give you a better prediction, like, hey, guess what? In January, we're going to get this 5th session and we're going to go hard on this. It's looking like we might have to just prepare really, really well so that we can try and get this done in an 89th session. If there's a 5th session, though, our legislator has said we will file the bill. So we have an Inspector General bill ready. It's in Leg Council. I haven't gotten it back yet, but if a 5th session is called, we are ready. So we will start fighting as soon as we have an opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Mary Alexander is just pointing out that when she called the governor's office, the staff person told her that she gets calls like this on a daily basis. It should be a priority, and we have communicated that. We have told them that protecting children is not a wish list item. It is a mandate. This is happening on state taxpayer dollars, and that's not okay. Not only is it not okay, it's completely immoral, and it violates public trust, and it makes all of us culpable for crimes against children. It's not something I would want happening on my record. So anyway, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Our time is up. It is 7 p.m. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you in a legislative meeting or another town hall like this soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.